Hello and good morning. I welcome you all to today's daily newspaper digest. It's 9 a.m. means we are back once again to analyze the most important news stories of the Hindu newspaper. My name is Harshmeet Singh, and if you are new here, please do hit the like and the subscribe button. This is a place where we take up the most important news stories, discuss them, not just what is written in the newspaper, but also take other important information about those topics so that we can cover that holistically. And at the end of it, we also have a quiz so that you can test your knowledge here. These are the topics that we have taken up from today's Hindu newspaper. The first topic is about the government's policy about maternity benefits. The activists working in this field don't seem to be happy. They think that the government is cutting down its expenditure and reducing the benefits that are given to pregnant women. Then there is a question or there is an article about laws about begging. As you know, Indore recently announced that they are banning begging in India. Begging will become a criminal offense, under which some FIRs also have been filed. This is where this article has been written, that do we need to criminalize begging or not, and what exactly is the law about it. Then there is an article about the persons with disabilities, impact of ethanol, delimitation exercise. So a lot of these important articles today. Let's cover them up one by one, starting with the first article. The first article is about maternity entitlements. Now please understand how does it work. In India, if you look at the working population, there are two types of people. One who work in the formal sector. If you are working in the formal sector, then you get a lot of maternity benefits. For example, if you are working in the formal sector, you are entitled to 26 weeks of paid leave. Means you will still be getting your salary for 26 weeks and you are not supposed to work. The problem is a bulk of India's workforce is actually deployed in the informal sector, not in the formal sector. So for the informal sector, people working in the unorganized sector, for them the government had introduced their own scheme. And this scheme was called, or is called rather, the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. Now this Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, under this scheme the government had announced that a pregnant lady will get 6,000 rupees from the side of the government when they are pregnant, when the child is born. Now the problem is, under this particular scheme, the benefits that they were entitled to of rupees 6,000, they have been reduced to rupees 5,000 now for the first child. And it has been limited to one child only, except if the second child is a girl. If the second child is a girl, then they will get this benefit for second child also. Otherwise, it will be for the first child only. So what the activists are saying, that 6,000 rupees anyways was too less, and now you have cut it down from 6,000 to 5,000, which is even lesser. And in a time like today, when everything is so expensive, how can you expect these women who could not go to work in the unorganized sector, how can you expect to compensate them with just rupees 6,000? The other problem is, when the activists try to find out data about the coverage of this scheme, how many people are getting benefit, the data is not easily available. The article says that the Ministry of Women and Child Development does not disclose the data about this scheme. Even if it goes against the RTI Act, they do not do that. Not just this 5,000 rupees or 6,000 rupees that has to be given, it is not given in cash. The government makes it mandatory that your Aadhaar card should be linked to your bank account, and then digital verification would happen, and only then the benefits will be given. Means a lot of people who have not been able to link their Aadhaar with the bank account would not be able to get benefits out of this. This also is a big problem. One, you have decreased the amount, and second, you are actually putting in more hurdles in place so that people could not get these benefits. And even if the numbers are not disclosed by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, there is a very simple calculation that these activists have done. According to them, if you look at the government of India's total spending on the scheme, the government of India's total spending on this scheme in 2023-24 was about 870 crores. Now 870 crores is 1/3 of the expenditure government did 5 years ago. Now by any calculation, when the scheme goes ahead and when more people are covered, the expenditure usually increases. But if your expenditure on a scheme has reduced to one third of what is used to be 5 years ago, means you are removing a lot of people, a lot of beneficiaries, and you're cutting down the benefit. One more calculation. As per the authors, if the government wants to cover 90% birth at 6,000 rupees per birth rate, means the government should have spent at least 12,000 crore. Imagine if 90% of the births had to be covered and these people had to be given these benefits, the government would have spent at least 12,000 crore. And what is being spent? 870 crore. Means there is a huge gap between the people who are eligible or who should have been the beneficiaries as compared to who are the beneficiaries. Now, the author gives example of two states specifically which are doing a great job in this regard. As you know, many state governments run their own schemes in this regard. The two that are stand out here are Tamil Nadu and Odisha. As per the author, if you look at Tamil Nadu, they have their own scheme under which they provide 18,000 rupees per child to the mother, and they are set to increase it to 24,000, which is much better than the amount paid by the central government. Odisha also provides 10,000 rupees per child. Used to be 5,000. They doubled it recently when the Lok Sabha elections took place last year. They doubled it to 10,000 rupees per child. And the other good part is, even if you look at the coverage, that is the number of beneficiaries covered, are much higher as compared to the central government scheme. In Tamil Nadu, the coverage has touched 84%. In Odisha, 64%. While in the central government, the coverage is below 10% nationwide. So maybe there's a lesson that the central government authorities can take from states such as Tamil Nadu and Odisha of how to get more beneficiaries under this scheme. And again, as I said in the very beginning, this scheme specifically targets women working in the unorganized sector. Those who are working in the organized sector, they anyways get benefits from the Maternity Benefit Act. So they anyways entitled to 26 weeks of paid maternity leave. So that is not a problem with them. In fact, on this aspect, India does much better than many other countries around the world. It is in the unorganized sector that the government has cut down this benefit, and even the coverage remains unsatisfactory as per the author. This is what the article told us. Now let's take a step ahead and see what are the other bits and pieces of information that we need to know about this particular article. If you look at how the constitution mentions these kind of things, we have it written in the directive principles. Article 42 directs the state to secure just and humane conditions of work and maternity relief. Now, as you know, directive principles are just pieces of advice for the government. These are not binding. But most of directive principles have been converted into laws. Under this, National Maternity Benefit Scheme was launched in the year 2001, which was replaced later by PM Matru Vandana Yojana that provided 6,000 rupees cash benefit. But again, these 6,000 cash benefit is for the women working in the unorganized sector. In the organized sector, we have a Women Maternity Benefits Act that is separate. Now, if you look at the international standards, I told you, in the organized sector, India is doing much better. If you look at the WHO, World Health Organization, recommends that we should be giving at least 14 weeks of maternity leave. And India provides 26 weeks, which is in fact better than many European countries as well. If you look at countries like Sweden, Finland, Norway, they give parental leave and financial support. Means parental leave means that applies to both the parents. In India, the law only makes it mandatory to give maternity leave. Now it depends on company to company. Some companies, some organizations give paternity leave, give leave to the fathers as well, but that's a pretty short leave. For maternity leave, there is a law by the government itself. In Bangladesh, just our next door neighbor, they have maternal health voucher scheme, under which they basically give vouchers to women and they can use it in whatever way that they want. This covers everyone, not just selective coverage in India. As we just discussed, in India, there is a selective coverage. You have to have your Aadhaar linked to your bank account. You have to get all the verifications, and only then you will be eligible for this particular scheme. That is why there has been an impact in the long run. The impact of weak maternity benefits is that if you look at the labor force participation and how many women are working in India, it's a much lower number as compared to other countries, because you are not ensuring better employment opportunities, you are not ensuring maternity benefits, you're not encouraging women to come out and work. You're not telling them that don't worry, we'll take care of your kids. Which is why you will see women labor force participation in India is only 24% as compared to 61% in China. It also leads to higher maternal mortality rates, higher infant mortality rates, because a lot of these things, maintaining sanitation, maintaining medicines, require money, which is not available. This is why, as per the authors, the government needs to rethink on its strategy of cutting down the expenditure from this scheme, because it does not make any sense. Before we move on to the second article for the day, again reminding you, we have our own current affairs magazine and notes that are freely available for you, which includes previous year questions, current affairs, and a lot of practice questions as well. The link to download is in the description of the video. You can also reach out on this number if you have any queries about this. Also, if you are willing to join our offline classes, these are the dates on which new batches are beginning. The dates for Karol, Bagh, Mukherjee, Nagar, these are the centers in Delhi. And then there are also offline centers that we have in Patna and Prayagraj. These are the dates on which new batches are beginning. Again, you can call on that number. Any other information that you require, check out the description of this video. The second article that we have for the day is about the law about beggars in India. Now, recently it was in the news that Indore has banned and has made it a criminal offense to beg. Means begging in Indore has become a criminal offense. Now, please understand, there was no law passed about it. It was an order given by the district magistrate that in this city, if you are found to be begging, it will be an offense now and an FIR can be registered against you. Now, what has happened is, recently there were 2 FIRs registered in Indore against people who were found to be begging. This is where it has become controversial. The question is, can an FIR be issued on the basis of someone begging? Means, can you punish poverty? That is one big question. Second big question here is, if there is no law about it, it was just an executive order given by the district magistrate, does it mean that in these cases also FIRs can be registered? These are some of the issues that are present here, which are being discussed in this article. The article here is based on section 223 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Now, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, again, there have been new laws that have replaced IPC, that have replaced CRPC. So, we'll discuss about we'll discuss mainly about the new law, that is the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita. We'll not go ahead and focus on IPC or CRPC, although I'll give you some examples here. Now, as I said, 2 FIRs have been registered in Indore against people who have been found to be begging. This is where the controversy has started. Now, let's look at what exactly is the problem here. Section 215 of the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, it prohibits the police from taking cognizance of certain offences unless a complaint is made by a public servant. Now, please understand the meaning of this. What it means to say is, if the DM had given an order that in my city, if you're found to be begging, FIR can be registered against you. Such an FIR can only be registered if the DM actually first files a complaint. Only then the FIR can be registered. FIR in such cases of an order of the DM is not automatically registered by the police. The Supreme Court has ruled no FIR can be registered for violation of a district magistrate order unless the magistrate filed a formal complaint with the court. So, just given an order is not enough. The district magistrate first has to file an appeal, a complaint with the court. Then the police can go and file the FIR. This is a problem here, this is the process which has not been followed here. The FIR has been followed or has been registered without the formal complaint given by the district magistrate. And this is not something new. This has been said in many earlier cases as well. In 2010, for example, the Supreme Court ruled that non-compliance with this particular section of CRPC, so it was earlier in CRPC, invalidated the prosecution. Means, if this process is not followed, the person should be released. In 1994, the court again emphasized that we have to prevent frivolous prosecution. 2018 again, Police officers cannot register FIRs for offences under this section unless explicitly authorized by law. So there are multiple such precedents that tell that the police cannot officially file FIR if an order of the district magistrate has been violated, unless the district magistrate first files a complaint in the court. That is one aspect. That is, the law itself is not followed. The other aspect of this debate is, should we take action against beggars? And if we should it be a legal action? Is it fine to punish someone for taking or for asking for money for their own livelihood, for their own sustenance? Legal action against them is counterproductive. In most countries around the world, now you might say that when you go to European countries or when you go to Western countries, you don't find beggars. But the point is that they have not criminalized it. They have not banned it. It's just that they run their social security programs, welfare programs to push people away from begging. And this is what we will discuss here in the Beyond the Write-Up section. Now, the sections of the law in India that are in question here is section 223 of BNS, that is a Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, and section 163 of Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita. Both of these give orders to the district magistrate, the public servant. They talk about how the public servant can issue orders, and if they are not followed, if they are not being properly accepted, then there can be punishment regarding that. Now, the problem with criminalizing poverty is that the courts also have said in the past that you cannot punish poverty. In the very famous Harsh Mandar case, the Delhi High Court decriminalized begging, saying that poverty cannot be punished. Similarly, in 1959, the Bombay Prevention of Begging Act was struck down because this law again criminalizes begging. The problem with this is that I'm not saying in all ways, but in most of the cases, people opt for begging because they don't have any other choice, because they don't have any other employment opportunities, any other livelihood. So the responsibility of the state is to give them livelihood and social benefits rather than punishing them. That is where the role of the judiciary also has to be highlighted. The judiciary also should step up and make sure that the administration does not take these kind of steps repeatedly. Although the courts have earlier struck down these provisions of making beggary a criminal offence, but courts have to be more strict if they have to get this implemented properly. Let's take an example of some of the other countries. Let's say UK. Begging is addressed to welfare programs. US, again, many cities have rehabilitation initiative. Nordic countries, they also focus on social security. Social security means in Nordic countries, your basic needs are taken care of. Even if you don't have money, your medical, education, healthcare facilities, etc., at least those are taken care of by the state. Nordic countries like Sweden, Finland, Denmark, they have a high taxation rate. But in return, at least you are assured that if something happens to you, if you are not working, if you don't have a job, at least your basic amenities are taken care of by the government. So the people don't have to resort to begging or other activities. Moving on to article number 3. The third article that we have here is about persons with disability and the issue that they have with the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. Now, what exactly is this issue all about? The government, as you know, recently introduced the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. The idea simply is that, and first talking about the act, the idea of the act is that data that you give to Facebook, Google, Instagram, whatever online websites that you use, you post a lot of your photos, videos, you post a lot of your information there. Now, over the years, this information has been used by these companies. They sell this information to show you ads, and they charge money from the advertisers to give this information to them. Now, the government is not happy about it. They don't want your data to be sold, your information to be sold, unless you yourself have given it the permission. So now, Digital Data Protection Act in simple terms says if Facebook has to use your data, if Facebook has to show your data, sell your data to the advertiser, they can only do that with your permission. So if you say that I don't want my data to be shared, then your data will not be shared. That is the law. Now, what is the connection with the persons with disability? The person with disability connection here is that in this act, section 9 of the act says that personal data of children and persons with disability can only be processed with the guardian's consent. Means Let's say there's a person with disability. He or she has an account on Facebook or Instagram. Now, Facebook asks them, can I share your data with advertisers? Then this person with disability has to now take the guardian's permission. They will not have the right to say yes or no. Their guardian will say yes or no, just like children. That is a problem. So the law has clubbed together children and persons with disability, that for both of them, a legal guardian should decide whether their data can be used or not. Now, this is why it has become problematic. The problem is that disability activists rather say that clubbing a person with disability with children means you are not ready to accept the issue. You are clubbing them with children, assuming that they can't take their own decisions. And this has become controversial. Now, if you look at persons with disability, you have to understand we are talking about different types of disability. There are certain disabilities that don't change your decision making power. For example, let's say you can't walk, or you have a motor disability, basically. Let's say you are on a wheelchair. Then and if you're an adult, your decision making ability is fine, you can take your own decision. It is only when the disability includes issues such as autism, cerebral palsy, intellectual disability. In such cases, it makes sense that yes, you can ask the guardian to take the decision. But in all the disabilities, if you're asking the guardian only to take the decision, that means you are actually reducing the rights or taking away the rights of persons with disability. The problem is that this act does not differentiate between the two types of guardianship, and that becomes problematic. The earlier laws had this provision that they recognize certain types of disabilities where guardian's approval was required, and in certain types it was not required. But in the new Personal Data Protection Act, they do not differentiate between these two types of guardianship, and that has become a big problem. Now, if a person with disability does not have a guardian, then how will it work? There is no clarity on that. Maybe they don't have a guardian, then who will decide on their behalf? Online platforms collect data on disabilities also. Now, it means that they can also misuse that data also, because the offline platform like Facebook, for example, will get to know that, oh, this person is not taking decision by himself, means he belongs to the category of person with disability. Maybe they can sell that data as well. That becomes problematic. Also, if you look at the international conventions, we have a UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disability, which advocates self-determination. Means it talks about the fact that people suffering from disability should be given the right to take their decisions themselves. This law contradicts that entire convention. Because of all of this, these concerns have been raised by the activists who are working in this field. Now, let's take some other important piece of information about this article. First, let's take an overview of what exactly the law says. The law's name is Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023. And as I told you earlier, the idea is simple, that whatever data you are sharing online, it should not be used without your own permission. It defines who are data fiduciary. Data fiduciary basically are companies which are taking your data. Facebook, Instagram, Google, etc. And data principal are people who are giving their data. It introduces the idea of user consent, means the consent of you. If you don't say yes, your data should not be shared by Facebook with anyone, with any advertiser. It establishes data protection boards also. If you think that your data is being misused, you can write a complaint to Facebook or other of these companies, and they will have officers assigned to this. Now, if you look at other countries, how they deal with this, the best example is European Union. They grant special protection to persons with disability without restricting their autonomy. UK also has something called United Kingdom's Equality Act, which mandates digital platforms to be fully accessible to persons with disability. So it's India that has a long way to go to ensure that we do not discriminate against persons with disability in the name of protecting them. Because when you say, no, I'm protecting you, don't worry, I will take your decision, that means you are taking away their autonomy to decide for themselves. You have to understand that they are also fully grown up adults and they can take their decisions by themselves, and you don't have to restrict that right. These are the possible solutions. Make changes in the act. For certain cases where you think the decision cannot be taken by the person, yes, you can introduce the idea of guardianship, but not all. Ensure accessibility and make sure that these platforms are available to be used for persons with disability as well, and have better laws in place. The next article that we have is about the impact of ethanol on the environment. Now, if you remember, in the past few years, the government has been extremely optimistic about the ethanol blending program. For those of you who don't know, the government mixes ethanol with petrol so that our petrol consumption reduces, our import of crude oil reduces. This ethanol blending program, the aim of the government is to reach 20% mixing of ethanol. Earlier aim was that we have to reach it by 2025, but now we have extended to 2030 because the government thinks 2025 would be too soon. So government thinks by 2030 we should be able to achieve 20% ethanol. So for example, next time when you go to the petrol pump and they are putting petrol in your vehicle, it is 10 liters of petrol, it would actually be 8 liter petrol and 2 liter of ethanol. That is ethanol blending program. So now the point is that this program is being introduced because number one, we want to reduce our import of crude oil, and secondly, it is better for the environment as well. However, this is where the study has now come out that ethanol may not be that good for the environment. Why? Because ethanol has a problem when you are actually producing it, and ethanol can have a significant impact on the environment. So all your hope that we are cleaning the environment with ethanol are actually going to waste. This is what this article talks about. As I said, the government aims to achieve 20% target. Right now, we are at 15%. Because of this, the demand for ethanol has also increased significantly. The demand of ethanol is 1016 crore liters to meet this target. And because of it, the government has now been encouraging ethanol production in the country. Now, when the government has to encourage something, they have to relax the policies. They have to make it easier for people to produce it. So, government has relaxed the environmental clearance norms and they have subsidized the grains that are used in ethanol manufacturing. So, it can be made using wheat, sugarcane, etc., corn also. So, government has eased rules, made it easier for anyone who wants to produce ethanol. Now, the problem is there are multiple studies that have proven that large-scale ethanol production actually polluting the air, water and soil in multiple states. Andhra, Maharashtra, Haryana, Punjab, all these are examples. There are multiple hazardous chemicals here like acetaldehyde, formaldehyde, all of these are released by ethanol factories. This is something that is not getting a lot of attention. If you look at ethanol plants right now, ethanol plants are in the red category, means the pollution score is above 60. Now, for any such factory or establishment that has a pollution score 60 plus in the red category, for setting up these, you usually have a public hearing, means you first ask the people living there, are they fine with this? Only with their permission are these allowed to be set up, so that the people in the vicinity know that there will be pollution in the area where they are living. But for ethanol production plant, the government has exempted them from public hearing. This is done so that the ethanol production can increase. This actually goes against the entire idea of cleaning the environment. You are taking away this right from the people to decide whether they want to live in the polluted environment or not. Not just this, it's not just about harming the environment, it's also about water consumption. If you look at ethanol plants, they require 8 to 12 liters of water for every liter of ethanol produced, which means you are depleting groundwater. And the impact is being seen in multiple rivers. There are rivers such as Krishna, which are experiencing low water. Ethanol factories rely on a lot of groundwater extraction. India does not have very strict rules about groundwater extraction in most places, and that is why it has become a norm for these factories to extract groundwater. As you know, a lot of Indian cities are facing extremely low groundwater level, and this problem will only increase. In fact, Niti Aayog report says that states that 20% ethanol blending will reduce carbon monoxide emission by 30% in cars and 50% in two-wheelers. However, the idea the scientists have given is that all these emissions will not be of any use because you are still polluting the environment just by making ethanol. So it's like saying that, okay, I am not polluting the environment by burning of petrol, but you are polluting the environment by making ethanol. So it is the same thing altogether. all the benefits that you hoped for, that your environment will get, are all being negated because of the way that ethanol is being produced. That is what this article says. Now, let's take a step ahead and talk about what exactly is the policy that we have in place. Now, the government of India has a national policy on biofuels 2018 that promotes second generation ethanol and not first generation. Now, please understand the difference. There has been a lot of debate about whether ethanol production is good for the country or not. Why? See, ethanol is produced using food grains, sugarcane, maize, all these things can be used for making ethanol. Now, in a country like India where a lot of people don't have enough food, the question is, when we grow food, does it make sense to make ethanol from it, or does it make sense to give it to the people to eat? If you have hungry people, that should be your first priority and not just filling this in the cars or in your fuel tanks. So this is where the difference between first generation, second generation ethanol has to be understood. First generation ethanol are those that are produced using food crops, sugarcane, maize, etc. While second generation ethanol is that which is made using agricultural waste, which is not consumable. The government focuses on the second generation ethanol, that promotes second generation ethanol, so that we are not taking away food from someone's plate. That is the entire idea. And this program is again extremely important if India wants to achieve a net zero target by 2070. So the government is not taking a step back. The states in India that are producing ethanol majorly include UP, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Punjab, Haryana. So as you can see, states where sugarcane production, maize production, wheat production is high, these are the states that would automatically go up in ethanol production. If you look at countries around the world, by far the leader in ethanol blending is Brazil. They have achieved over 85% ethanol in fuel. That is again a very far off stage where India would want to achieve. US also have the renewable fuel standard. They promote biofuels. European Union also has this. India again has made good progress. We earlier aimed for 15%, now we are going for a 20% ethanol blending. We might increase it further in the future, but again, questions about manufacturing and production of ethanol have to be answered by the government. These are points in favor and against this ethanol blending, as we have discussed. Favor in ethanol blending, it will help India import lesser oil, so our import bill will reduce. It will also help cut down the vehicular pollution. It will have an opportunity for the farmers to earn more money with an additional revenue. But on the other hand, it's water intensive. It may replace food crops, and it is obviously causing air and water pollution in their manufacturing. So it has to be an informed decision in the long run. The next article is about the delimitation exercise that has long been pending. As you know, the seats in the parliament, number of seats that we have, has been frozen. It has not increased after 1971. The reason being that in the 1970s, the government of India launched the family planning program. Under the family planning program, some states, especially in the south side of India, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, etc., they were able to control their population. While states like UP and Bihar were not able to control their population, the population increased in those states even further. The problem is, because of this, there is a big difference between the population of states like UP, Bihar and Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So today, if you divide the number of seats on the basis of population, the result will be that in the parliament, states such as Tamil Nadu and Kerala will get much lesser seats and UP and Bihar will get much more seats. So the government has not changed the number of seats in the parliament after 1971. The law says that the change in the seat, that is the delimitation exercise, will happen after 2026 census. So whatever census is conducted after 2026, delimitation number of seats will be decided according to that. Now the problem is, states in southern India like Tamil Nadu are not happy with this. If they think that the seats are divided as per their population, all their efforts of population control, rather than being rewarded, they will be punished for it. Because they did not increase their population drastically, they will be punished for it. And other states which increase their population, which did not control their population, will actually be rewarded for it. This is a big concern that South Indian states have. Now the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, has given a statement saying that Tamil Nadu should not worry. we will make sure Tamil Nadu does not lose any seat. The seats will be increased in proportion. On the other hand, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister says that we might end up losing 8 Lok Sabha seats if delimitation is on the basis of population in the next census. And this is where there has been a significant north-south divide. Because in South India, again, this issue is pretty big because they were successful in controlling their population and they don't want to be punished for it. The last delimitation exercise that was carried out was in 1971 census, and after that it has been frozen. The number of seats in the Lok Sabha has been frozen to the census that will be conducted after 2026. This is where, now that the year is approaching, this is where the political parties in South especially are now worried about what the government's next step will be. There is no assurance from the government except the statements like these. As I told you, Home Minister has made the statement that you do not need to worry. South states will not be treated, will not be discriminated against. They will not lose any seats. Now, as you know, delimitation commission, as I said, is controversial because of the way that the exercise works. The states with higher population would gain more seats, and the states with lower population, which did well to do family planning programming, will actually lose out on the seats. This is a controversial issue. For example, even when the Finance Commission gives its report, the Finance Commission also takes into consideration the population of the states, and then they decide, or they tell the central government how much money to be given to the states. Here also South Indian states are unhappy that because we control our population, we are getting lesser money. This is again an issue that has not been resolved. If the census now, if delimitation exercise is conducted now, states such as UP, Bihar, MP will gain many more seats, and that is why this is a big problem that has to be resolved, because there is no one solution for this, at least as of now. How it depends, or how the government decides, remains to be seen, whether they make some changes in the delimitation exercise or not. The last topic that we have for you today is the impact of coal power plants on the rice and wheat production. There has been multiple studies conducted. This one is by researchers at Stanford University that have proven now that power plants that run on coal have been depleting, have been cutting down India's rice and wheat production by 10%. The air pollution, the emissions that come out from these coal power plants contain carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, fly ash, etc. And they impact not just human health but plant health also. For example, nitrogen oxides are phytotoxic, means they put stress on the plant, they hinder the cellular functioning of the plant, and it has been proven that at least 10% of wheat and rice production has been cut down because of this. This also leads to formation of ozone due to NO2, and it worsens the crop damage because the sunlight does not reach them and they are not able to do photosynthesis at a level that they would. This is where the study says that the government of India must move away from coal power plants. States such as West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh are the ones that are the most impacted by this. The study says 5.7% of the cropland near the coal plants could see 5 to 10% improvement if nitrogen oxide elimination or pollution is eliminated. Similar is the number with Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. That is, if they remove the NO2 pollution, there will be a significant improvement in their crop production, especially the fields that are near the coal power plants. And it has resulted in humongous economic losses as well. The study says that because of the coal power plants, the damage was about 15 lakh per gigawatt hour that was produced, and more than 11 lakh loss per gigawatt hour for every rice that was produced. This is where coal-fired electricity generation has to be decreased or has to be looked into by the government. Apart from this, the article also says that 20% of this electricity generation during the monsoon accounted for half of nitrogen oxide related rice losses, and the similar is the case with wheat losses as well. Now, the fact is, despite our attempts to go to solar, green hydrogen, etc., the fact is India is still heavily dependent on coal production. Even today, over half of India's energy generation, power generation comes from coal. 55% of our power generation still comes from coal. In fact, in 2025 budget, the government increased coal sector allocation by 255%. Means despite all our efforts, we have to understand coal still remains the major power generator in India. The National Clean Air Program aims to reduce the pollution by 20 to 30% by 2024, but because of our dependence on coal and the technology and renewable energy not being as groundbreaking as we had hoped, this dependence on coal will not reduce. See, the problem is we are doing very well in solar, we are producing much more solar energy, but these are not available 24/7. The good part with coal is it's available 24/7, and you can have coal power plants wherever you can just transport coal and you can make electricity there. With solar, wind, etc., they're very area specific and time specific also. There is no doubt that coal is extremely harmful. It has pollutant like NO2, SO2, etc. that cause acid rain as well, formation of ozone also. The National Green Tribunal has also said that coal power plants, etc., should be stopped. For example, in Delhi, coal power plants have been stopped many years ago. And even then, Delhi's pollution is so high because there are coal power plants on the outskirts of Delhi now. But within Delhi, the coal power plants are not allowed. So, coal power plants and their harmful impact is known to everyone. Just that this study now talks about the harmful effects on plants as well and not just animals. Internationally, if you see how other nations have dealt with it, European Union implemented the Industrial Emissions Directive, which has forced the coal plants to reduce NO2 emissions. US also uses something called selective catalyst reduction technology that has cut down NO2 emissions by about 90%. China has also done the same and they are opting for cleaner alternatives. Again, India is also trying to do it, but coal has remained the cheapest and the best available use of energy that we have right now. Renewable energy is expanding, but not at a pace as good enough to replace coal as of now. These are the articles that we had from today's Hindu newspaper. Now, quick test for all of you to see if you were able to learn all of this. First, consider the following statements regarding Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. It provides financial incentive of 5,000 to all live births. All? No, only for the unorganized sector. You can say yes for all live births specifically to the people who actually are covered. Universal scheme covering all pregnant women? No. It doesn't cover all pregnant women, it only covers pregnant women in the unorganized sector. It is implemented under the National Food Security Program? Yes. So 1 and 3 would be correct. All live births, basically we are considering all live births of the beneficiaries. Which of the following provisions are included in Maternity Benefit Act 1961? Paid maternity leave for women in the unorganized sector. Maternity Benefit Act is only for the organized sector, not the unorganized sector. So this is wrong. Creche facility in workplace with more than 50 employees. So creche facility basically means facilities for women to get their children to work and then they will be taken care of in the creche. This is correct. Protection from dismissal during pregnancy. Yes, this is also correct. These are the two benefits that are under Maternity Benefit Act. It's only for the organized sector. National Food Security Program 2013 mandates universal maternity benefit for 6,000 rupees for all pregnant women, free food grains to eligible household and right to nutritious meal to pregnant women and lactating mothers. The answer here is B. Again, why? Because universal maternity benefit are not for all pregnant women. Again, not all, only in the unorganized sector. Not all pregnant women are eligible for this benefit. Consider the following statements about Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita. Section 223 of BNS replaced Section 188 of IPC and deals with disobedience of public servant. Section 163 replaced Section 144 of CRPC, grants magistrate emergency powers. Police can directly register FIR for violation of district magistrate prohibition orders under Section 163. No, this is what we discussed. Police cannot directly register FIRs. It has to be first after a complaint is filed by the magistrate to the court. Only then it can be FIR can be registered, not without that. The answer thus is A. 1 and 2 are correct. The third statement here is wrong. With reference to environmental concerns of ethanol production, consider the following. Number 1. Ethanol production are classified as red category of industry. Yes. Water consumption is higher than that of conventional petroleum refining. Yes. Ethanol factories release harmful chemicals like acetaldehyde and formaldehyde. Yes. All these are negative impact of ethanol production. Which brings us to the end of today's session. I hope it was helpful. If you're new here, do hit the like and the subscribe button. Share it with your other friends as well. Be here every day at 9 a.m. to enjoy this Hindu newspaper analysis. My name is Harshmeet Singh. Till then, bye-bye. Take care. Jai Hind.